What is up? It's Liza. Welcome back to my channel. This is the first episode of interviews with interesting people, and as you can see, I am filming the intro in the most random of places, a shower. So before I get into the interview, I just wanted to say once again thank you to everyone who watches this, everyone who took part in this, and yeah, this is one of my favorite things to do, is just to talk to people, have conversations, and largely this conversation is just about music and just about, you know, how music connects people, and I think that that's a great thing. So that's what this is what this interview is mostly about with Andrew, and I'm so excited for you all to hear this interview. But before I get into it, I really just wanted to say a little introduction of my friend Andrew, because I feel like I really don't introduce him well. So I met my friend Andrew last year as a sophomore when we took chemistry together. In chemistry, there's like a group of us, and we just were always the most chaotic people in the class, and we're always in something, and really it's just one of the closest friendships that I've had throughout high school. And so I really cherished all these people, and all these people, you know, might show up here sooner or later. I don't know if I can get them to do interviews, but I really just love these people, and these people are amazing. And so I decided to interview Andrew because Andrew's so different from me in just so many different ways, and I thought that it was important to bring people on who just really are so different from me. I think that some of the people I've talked to, Naomi and Meadow and so, we are a lot closer than me and Andrew are, and I think that that closeness means that the interview really didn't go in depth in trying to get to know these people. So I'm really excited for y'all to meet Andrew, and yeah, let's get into the interview. So do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. Hello, my name is Andrew Fisher. I go to Winter Springs High School. I'm a junior, and I'm going to be 17 in November.
Thanks, so you're probably like one of the oldest people in the group. Okay, so do you want to tell me about anything that you're involved in school or outside of school, any extracurriculars or anything?
Yeah, I play guitar. I take lessons. I really enjoy playing metal guitar. I don't really like mess around with all like the popular music and stuff like that. I'm planning on doing track in, I think, the winter, and I'm doing debate club at Winter Springs High School. So that's really all I got going on for me right now.
Okay, and what is your opinion of our high school?
Honestly, I mean, this year I could tell from being online that it's been working very well. There was a few like complications in the beginning because of the fact that, you know, this is all new to us and stuff like that. And I think the teachers are doing a really good job with it. And I don't know how the students are doing like in school, but I'd say, I mean, everything is going pretty smoothly for me right now.
And I mean, besides the whole, you know, us like not being able to go to school in person for the most part and just have basically a normal junior, do you think that this idea of a normal high school experience you've had, or you have some semblance of it?
You know, I'm not really feeling that. No, I haven't really I don't feel like I've really gotten the full experience.
Is there any reason why you think that? Like, anything you wish you would have done?
Well, I wish I could have done more sports, but I'm kind of okay, I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of lazy, and I don't really want to do sports all that much because I always see people getting hurt and stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't want to be them. And I just honestly don't enjoy sports all that much. But at the same time, I could have probably made a lot more friends being in a team sport or just playing a sport in general. But when it comes to band and stuff like that, I did make a lot of friends that I'll probably be friends with for a really long time. And, you know, I kept in touch with everybody, obviously. I still maintained all my friends. It's just now I have to find something else to do.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things about high school that's kind of I wouldn't say it's definitely a high school thing where we become friends with people in the groups that we join or in the classes that we're in, and we'll still talk to them and we'll still be friends with them, but it's just not the same as constantly being together. So last year we had chemistry together, and it was all of us all the time, every single day we were always, hanging out or just doing different things. So I definitely say it is like a thing where the farther you are from seeing each other, the less you see each other, the harder it is to keep and maintain those relationships. And you said you were in band. How long were you in band?
I started band when I was in 7th grade. I was inspired by one of my friends who played the clarinet. I was like, what are you carrying around in that case? He's like, it's clarinet. I'm like, ooh, maybe I'll try it. And then I tried it and I was like, dang, this is actually kind of fun. And then I just joined band, and I really enjoyed it in middle school because my teacher and all the people that were around me were like fantastic people. But then I got into high school and I started to realize, not it, Chief. It's just he's kind of a jerk, and I always seem to be on his bad side for some reason. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna quit. But I decided to keep music in my life and just play guitar because, first time I heard AC/DC, I was like, dang, I want to play guitar. And I never got the chance to buy an electric guitar until a few months ago for my birthday. Well, it's actually been almost a year, but it only seemed like a few months ago. And I've probably practiced around 2 to 3 hours a day.
Now, you mentioned AC/DC and playing the electric guitar. Do you think that that's something you would want to take into a career maybe, or is it just a fun hobby that you like?
My mom, I'm going to be honest with you, my mom wants it to be a hobby, but I really want it to become a career because I'm starting to get into the death metal scene and the extreme music scene, and there's a lot going on in that scene right now. But I mean, this isn't extreme music, but yesterday Eddie Van Halen died, which is one of the greatest guitarists of all time in my opinion. And I was kind of crushed by that, but at the same time, it gave me some inspiration to be like, I look up to him. He was one of the greatest riff writers of his generation, and I started writing my own riffs a few weeks ago, and I've been mostly inspired by Van Halen and this band called Cannibal Corpse and this band called Death. Those are some of the biggest names in death metal, overall, their techniques and starting to write riffs. So I really think if that becomes a success and I find people who want to play this music with me, which is also very hard to do right now because one, COVID, and two, nobody wants to either play drum or bass for it. It's all guitar players that I know. And it's still a very limited genre because of the fact that it's so extreme. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And I mean, I think that it's important to have that dream though. I think that's one of the things that I've sort of noticed. A lot of the people that I talk to, it ranges between two things. Either they have a dream, they have something that they want to work towards, or high school and just the mandatory schooling has taken so much out of them that they're really not dreaming anymore. And I think that's so great that you are still dreaming. You do still have these passions. What is your favorite song at the moment?
Oh, one of the favorite songs I'm working on, I probably can't say the name of it because it's really disturbing. I think my favorite song of all time is Spiritual Healing by Death. And fun fact about the band Death, their lead singer, who sadly died back in 2001 of throat cancer, Rip Chuck, he went to Lyman High School and actually dropped out his senior year to pursue his dream of being a musician in the band Death. And he actually lives his old house was by the Altamont Mall, which is the funniest part. But I've been working on lots of Death songs because it's so unique. They're one of the founders of the genre of death metal, and just the direction they took music in the 90s and late 80s, it was just insane. And I've just been really inspired by them ever since.
And I think that's a thing that I really find interesting about you though, is I feel this is not to trash on music today or to trash on the way that music has gone, even though I don't like the direction music has gone. I think the music industry is slowly dying out actually, but there was so much momentum in every decade, and there's always such a hype of older music and of this nostalgia of older music. Do you think that 20 years you'll look back at where death metal is today and what do you think you'll think about it 20 years from now?
Honestly, I'm gonna think that it's metal is not a dying way of music because it's so underground now because people have just like rejected it or their parents haven't played anything for them. But there are modern metal bands such as Gojira, Meshuggah, and just a bunch of other, death metal, chunky metal bands, but they don't get much publicity because people just don't like the music. But in 20 years, there's metal's still going to be played. It's going to be forever. It's like rock and roll. It's always going to be a thing. Even if people say it dies out, there's still going to be rock and roll bands. There's going to be cover bands. The music is still alive. But, unlike disco and like old blues and stuff like that, those genres aren't still really around anymore, sadly. They've either evolved or they've just died out. Like, I think disco pretty much evolved into like pop music, like normal pop music, and like 80s stuff, and then that evolved into like the late 90s pop, and then that evolved into the 2000s stuff. Blues just pretty much evolved into country and kind of some artists use blues in like thrash metal stuff back in the 80s and 90s, but I mean, things come and go, but when it comes to metal, it's always going to be there.
Yeah, and shifting away from music, because I feel like I could talk with you about music all day. I think that's one of the things that is so like great is that, or so like, I think that's one of the things we have in common is that music is something we could talk about. We could be here for hours talking about music and talking about different bands. Okay, yeah. So my next question for you is, if you could see yourself 5 years from now, you could perfectly imagine yourself 5 years from now, what would you be doing 5 years from now?
Well, I hope that I'm in college and one of my goals is to be a lawyer or just like, a lawyer, go into law somewhere. And I honestly, I just want to be making money. I want to like provide for myself and like, get myself out there in the world of music as well. If that passion stays with me, which I sure hope it does, and I'm pretty sure it will. But my goal is to at least put out one, demo or something like that in 5 years at least. But in 5 years, I really see myself just, playing music in like cover bands, or like maybe I'll have my own band and maybe I like, hit it big like Gojira did, and they just like they exploded and they play festivals and they play just gigs around the world and stuff like that, and create my own style and just play my heart out for the world.
I think that's great. I really love that. That's like one of the things that I when I've been interviewing people, I feel like maybe it's the time that I interviewed them, but for so many people I felt like their passions just isn't a thing anymore. I feel like so many people just go through this practical route, and I think that it's I said it before, but I think it's so great that you have these dreams. Okay, you said you wanted to be law. Do you think that like contract law or like law inside like the music industry interests you?
Yeah, actually, funniest thing is I have an interview with somebody on Friday to talk about law and just like getting started, like going into college and stuff like that about it. But I think the law that was most interesting is like copyright law, and at the same time, I like personal injury because it makes them, big money. And I personally like copyright law because I want to see people get justice for what they've done, and I want to see people like, succeed in life. But if somebody ever comes across them and like, takes something away from them or steals something from them, they shouldn't have the right to do that. And I want to be the one that defends their case.
And I think that with music, that's one of the big things is like music sounding similar.
Yes.
And I like that there's this like thought process for it though. I think that's so important. I think that even like even when our hobbies, even when there are hobbies that we love that we would love for them to become careers, I think it's good to like keep it though. I feel like my parents or even people that I know that are adults, I feel like they've given up so many hobbies or have just given up certain things in their lives, and I don't ever want to do that. Do you have any favorite artists or musicians or anything?
Yeah, one artist I've really been interested in, obviously Chuck Schuldiner. He started playing guitar when he was 10, and he just got private lessons from, I think, some guy in Florida somewhere, but I don't think he still teaches lessons. But he created his band back in '86, originally called Mantis, and they were kind of an experimental death metal band, because nobody had ever heard of it, and they were one of the pioneers of the genre. Obviously they sounded like total crap because they had like really bad recording gear and stuff like that, but then Chuck like switched out members and stuff like that. Well, that created the band called Death, which he named. He wanted something brutal and shocking at the time, and he wanted people to see that they're cultivating a new genre. They're the ones that are going to make it. What really interests me about Death is that every album they pretty much had new members in the band. And that's how their sound just changed pretty much every album. And that is just what really interests me about them, because they never just sound like the same band. It's always something different. And switching to a different band, this band I've been playing a lot of riffs from, called Cannibal Corpse. Their bassist Alex Webster, one of the most like technically proficient players in the genre on bass. He uses his fingers that play at around, I don't know, 200 beats per minute, 16th note switches. It's extremely fast, and switching strings and stuff like that, it's just completely insane to watch him play. And he writes the bulk of Cannibal Corpse's riffs, and it just, every time I watch like an old video or documentary about Cannibal Corpse, it's just amazing to see him on stage just headbanging away, just like cranking out bass lines for like 2 hours that are just blazing fast and all around the fretboard. It's truly amazing. And another artist I really like look up to for chords and stuff like that is probably Eddie Van Halen. I mean, the dude used like super loud distortion and whammy bar stuff, but all of his like backgrounds to Sammy Hagar and God, what's the other singer's name? I forgot his name, but anyways, David Lee Roth. That's right. All the backgrounds he did use like highly distorted chords and just like chuggy kind of stuff. It's just really cool rhythm parts. So I really look to him for rhythm, and Chuck for leads and stuff like that. But right now, obviously I said the band Cannibal Corpse before, but a lot of their members have come and gone, but all of their riffs have pretty much like evolved since the first four albums. The first four albums all really sounded the same, but the album that really sticks out is an album, yes, it's called Butchered at Birth. Yeah, it's pretty gross. Yeah, don't look at the cover either. But the riffs on that album are heavy AF. Like they are insane. And I've been really studying that album technique-wise and just speed-wise, so I can like throw down some stupid heavy riffs and just technical stuff, so I can start writing riffs like that. And those are really like my inspirations.
You know, it's funny that you're talking about your inspirations, because that was the next question that I was going to ask you. I think I like I said, like you could talk about music here for hours, and I love the passion that you have behind it, but not only the passion, but the way that you are explaining you studying the music and sort of understanding better how they are able to do it and how you can then do it.
Yes, I mostly play my stuff through this thing called tabs, but at the same time, I challenge myself every so often, like I used to with saxophone, and I learn a piece by ear.
I think that's one of the great things about learning an instrument, though, is that it takes time and dedication to do that, and it takes time and dedication to learn songs, and even to write your own songs. It takes time and dedication to do that. So the effort that goes into that it's so amazing, and to see the hard work that you've put in, you know, come out, like that must be an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it feels really good. But also at the same time, I'm like, I got to keep pushing myself. If I want to be the best that I can be, I got to keep learning harder stuff. The music I really started out with was actually like pretty hard for a beginner. And I started learning it all by myself. I'm mostly self-taught technique wise, but now I started taking lessons. I've sharpened my techniques and like gotten them all like pretty down pretty well. But right now I'm in that phase of guitar where I'm starting basic soloing techniques, like picking stuff and moving my fingers quicker. But when it comes to like chunkier rhythm playing, I'm actually like pretty darn efficient at that kind of stuff. I know I sound pretty full of myself here, but I mean, I can tell
No,
as a musician that
it's good to be. I think it's good to be confident in yourself and be confident in your abilities. I feel like especially nowadays it's like such a hype or like a trend to like put yourself down or like to like demean yourself, and I don't like that. I think that we have to. I think if we don't appreciate our skills, we're not going to be able to get others to appreciate our skills. And I think that going into music, especially, is one of those like fields where you have to know that you are worthy, that you have value. I think that's super
yes, for
important.
sure.
Okay, so just random question here. You have to choose one person to stay on a deserted island with. Who is it?
Hmm. They obviously have to be alive, right?
Alive or dead? You literally could pull like Jesus.
Man, I think I'd just pull Chuck, to be honest. Chuck Schuldiner of Death, and I would just talk his ear off for the rest of my life. And I would sit on that island with my guitar and I would learn every single Death riff and I would learn how to solo like him. God, I love everything about that man. I never met him. I've only gotten to know him through people. I actually met the rhythm guitarist from one of the albums at a guitar store one time, and he said Chuck was like the nicest person ever, and always like he was always incredible like live and stuff like that. And God, I wanted to meet him so bad, and to be on a deserted island with just him with no distractions. That would be the greatest thing ever.
I think that like there's like the degrees of like separation from people where you're always like a certain number of people away from like a celebrity or like a public figure or something like that. So I mean, hey, maybe you're 8 people away from him.
He's dead.
You could still be 8 people away from him, dead or alive. You know, maybe
Yeah,
you could still learn more about him though through the people that are closer to him.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
No, and I think that music is one of those ways that you're definitely sort of immortalized. I think that like we we still talk about people who are dead and gone who've made music years ago, and we often talk about them like they're still alive. Like I still talk to my dad about Freddie Mercury. Like he didn't die before I was even born. You know, I think that music is one of those things that you you live on forever. When people think of Andrew, when people think of you, what do you want them to think about?
Where I want people to see me in the future, I want them to see me as, a kind person who, like, always he works well with other people and he's creative and extremely technically proficient on the guitar. Yeah. But I want people to see me as that for sure, as all of those things.
And I think that question is one of the questions that like I like asking people because I think that we sort of create this version of ourselves in our heads and like we know who we are. But when we think about how other people view us or perceive us, it's either not the same or it's not to the fullest extent that we want them to understand us. You know, sometimes I feel like we go off somewhere sometimes where people assume something about us or people just take something the wrong way, and so then they don't see us who we think we are or who we know we are. Do you have any final words you want to say?
I feel like I'm a better person around them because I've obviously been with them since birth.
Yeah.
And I can be myself. I may get in trouble all the time, but I still think that I'm the best person I can be when I'm around my parents. I want to make people remember that, hey, this guy wrote riffs that like changed the world, that made him unique. I want my memory to be carried on like that. Yeah, for sure.
And that is all for this video. If you stick around for a couple seconds more, I will play a bit of a guitar riff that Andrew did. But that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my video on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Alright, this is session tapes where I'm just playing riffs and stuff. Number 1.